Hey guys, I'm really happy to meet you here in our free webinar, Salesforce DX Development with Automated Code Reviews in the Cloud. Thank you for joining us today, and I believe next 30 minutes will be really productive for you. My name is Rustam Nurgudin. I'm CEO of the Welkin Suite, and I would like to introduce to you our great presenters. Today we have Lorenzo, who is a certified technical architect and founder of the Clayton ESO. Hi, Lorenzo.
Hi, guys. Hi, thank you, Rustam.
Our next presenter, Vladimir, our head of product in the Welkin Suite. He will talk a bit more about Welkin, of course.
Hi, guys.
So, guys, let's start. Next 30 minutes, we will talk a bit more about the Welkin Suite, about Clayton ER. We will talk about how to link Git repositories, how to work with DX, how to review results, and a lot more. At the end of our session, we will be able to ask questions. But if you have anything during the presentation, during the session, you can post it into the chat. It's available all the time. And let me say a few words about the Welkin Suite IDE that will be presented today, of course. It's one of the great IDEs around the world, in Salesforce world, I believe. So it has a lot of benefits and advantages. You will be able to see them today, a bit later. But just to, I would like to focus your attention on some aspects of it. When we did this IDE, we tried to really increase your productivity, to make an application that allows you to work much more productive. We try to include all the needed instruments in the tool. So it's includes admin features, developers features, any possible things related to work in any possible aspects, debugging, troubleshooting, lighting development. Salesforce DX support appears in our IDE is one of the first things. So today we'll be able to see, and if you of course need a bit more information about the IDE, you can visit our website or request a demo. That's also possible for you and your team in personal. And right now I would like to pass control to Lorenzo to talk about Clayton ER, the great application. So Lorenzo.
Thank you everyone for joining the session. Hello everyone. So I'm here to introduce you to Clayton.io. Clayton is the tool that I started pretty much a year ago in the Salesforce development space. Clayton is a code review robot and looks after your code 24/7 to help teams write better apps faster on the platform. If you're interested, you can bookmark Clayton.io as a website or follow Get Clayton. What is the problem that Clayton tries to solve? In a nutshell, very simply, as a technical architect and a developer first, I experience how challenging it can be to make sure that everyone in your team is not only writing apps that function well, but that are also written according to best practices. That is something that requires maturity and a lot of understanding of the platform, and it's not something that we can give for granted. So in mature organization, there are a number of ways to mitigate for that. There are tools, there are standards, there are practices like peer reviews and code reviews, and part of these things can be partly automated, but it's still a lot of effort and is not something that everyone can implement. So I basically wanted a tool that could very simply take the issue away. So let the developers do their job in their collaborating on a code repository, and then have the bot taking care of everything else, so that it would run in the cloud. It will validate the code automatically, checking all the possible security and best practices that are typical and so important in Salesforce development automatically, and can give feedback automatically to the developers throughout the development lifecycle. So this is in a nutshell. Of course, I will be happy to answer any questions about Clayton later. What we would like to show you is how, in a very simple way, Clayton is set up and how it works. So the first thing that I have to do is to plug it into my repository. I need to authorize Clayton to, of course, as a trusted member of my team. And once I have authorized Clayton, I can connect it to one of my repos. So in this example, in this demo today, we will show you a development project, a sample DX development project that is hosted in a simple GitHub repo. You'll be able to clone it and see it yourselves. So all I have to do, as you can see, the repo is here. I have to link it with Clayton. So yeah. So the first step is the connection. And at this point, Clayton prompts me to set up the standards. These are the checks that define what good code means in my team. So this is the moment where I have to pick the checks that I want to be enforced. Of course, every project is different, so we want to give that flexibility to everyone. But in the context of this exercise, we will make sure that there is no hard-coded IDs. We will make sure that there is all the security checks. There is no security vulnerability as far as we can predict by doing code analysis. And a few other things that I think might be interesting is to make sure that we do Visualforce. We try to follow best practices around Visualforce. And let me see. Just selecting a couple of things for this example. Okay. In very simple terms, all these rules determine how you want your code to be, and they are configurable to fit all your different project needs. So the important thing that I have to do now is to onboard the people that are collaborating with me. So Vladimir is going to do a little bit of development today. So I will invite him to join the team. And before I can give the, actually, I've added him to the team members of my project. So I'm now ready to switch back control to him.
Yep, I'll just grab it. Thank you. And Lawrence, if you don't mind, I'll stop your webcam. Yep. And okay, guys. So what do we see right now? Right now you can see my browser with lots of my personal emails, but at the same time you can see the email sent from Clayton that I'm invited to collaborate in the project. And of course, as I'm going to participate in it, I need to accept the review standards. So again, I need to identify myself, open the project, and yes, I accept the checklist of the review rules, and I join the project. So from now on, I can start my development. And today I will show you how to develop very simple stuff. There is no magic there is no great, cool, shiny stuff there, but it will be very simple Salesforce DX kind of project and development. So as Lorenzo already shown, we have a GitHub repository. I have cloned it to my own local machine. So what I will do here, I will just navigate to the folder where I have this DX project, and I will just open my solution in the Welkin Suite IDE. So for those of you who are new to the Welkin Suite, I won't repeat all of the great stuff that Rustam said about us, but in general, it's a IDE that provides you as much information, as much possible actions as possible. We are available for both Mac and Windows, and me being a Windows or .NET developer, I prefer using the Windows version, so I will show you the Windows version right now. So I will close the second instance, and you can see my project is opened here. Let's first of all examine what do we have in the IDE and what we can see on our screen at the moment. So we can see the Solution Explorer. It shows me the project stuff that I have here. We'll get here in more details in 20 seconds. And the most important thing for Salesforce DX projects is the Organizations Manager. It's like a hub for managing your Scratch orgs, managing your dev hubs, for managing your Salesforce DX stuff. At the same time, you have a couple of other standard panels with your test results, code coverage, even command line, debug logs. Everything is empty now because we haven't done yet anything. So let's see, what do we have? In our project, we have some first application. It's only one class, one layout, one custom object with couple fields, one page, couple of changes to profiles, and a tab. So in general, it's just a very simple list, like custom object for storing data about like public holidays, and a page to show you the full list of this, like Visualforce page to show you the list of these holidays. So what I need to do? As you can see in my organizations manager, I have only a dev hub. So first of all, I will start from creating a Scratch org. So I can develop something, I can deploy all my code to that Scratch org, so I can see how it looks like itself. I'll call the Scratch org holiday project. I'll make it active for 2 days because I don't need it in 3 days. I don't need it after the weekend. I make it as a default one, and while I can create and modify lots of settings for the Scratch org, I don't care about them. It's a very simple project. It doesn't need anything special, so I just use a default setting for the development environment. I press next, and then the IDE manages all of the stuff for the Salesforce DX. It doesn't require you to know and remember all of the Salesforce DX commands. We do everything for you. So you just hit a couple buttons, and the IDE does all the magic together with the command line interface. Once the Scratch org will be created, we will see it available in the organizations manager. Great, it's done. So now I have my holiday project Scratch org, and I can deploy my code there so I can understand what happens there. So I just simply press F5 button, and IDE automatically deploys all of the stuff to the default Scratch organization. I've checked the button for my Scratch org to be default one, so in just less than a minute, done. I have everything already on my Scratch org. I right-click on it in the orgs manager and open it in browser to see and understand what's there. So Salesforce UI takes a couple seconds to load. Okay, not couple, but 20, something like that. And right from here, we can see that there is already lots of stuff in most recently used items. So we have our controller, we have custom tab definition, we even somewhere have a page. So I will switch to the holidays tab, so I can see what holidays I have here. And as you might guess, it's like Scratch new org, and there is no data here. But thankfully, previously, like a couple days before, I've made a kind of backup of sample data. And with this data, I will work today. So this JSON file with sample records is stored as a part of my repository. And what I need to do here is just right-click on it and select import. In less than 20 seconds, the IDE together with the command line interface will import all of this data to your environment. It can be as complex as you might guess. It can be lots of master details records. It can be lots of lookup records. It can be lots of everything. Okay, we see our records here, and there is my Visualforce page, but I don't have yet any tab to access it. So I will get back to the setup, open user interface, and I will create a tab for my custom Visualforce page. So I will call it holidays, and it will be pointing to holidays page. I would select some style, I don't care about it. I make it default on for all of the files, for all of the applications, and that's it. Now I have my tab for my Visualforce page. I can try to, yeah, it's a bad idea to have the same name. So I believe this one is my Visualforce page. Exactly, this is my Visualforce page. So it's very simple, it just shows you the list of records. And what I will do right now, so as you can see, I have made a separate custom tab for my Visualforce page, and now I would like to get this tab as a part of my project in the Git repository. So I right-click on the project, select Pull, and this will bring me some all of the changes from the environment to my project in the ID, so I can later then include it into my repository, commit it, and all my teammates in the future, or maybe Lorenzo, he'll be able to enjoy the same tab for my Visualforce page. You can see it's right here. Here's my new tab. And what I will do right now, I would like to modify a bit this Visualforce page, and I want to create a new one which will show me the countdown in hours to the holiday itself. So I will show you like a pretty fast and small process of developing the stuff, and then we'll try to code review my code because I'm not writing it too often, and it might be not so good as I would like to. Okay. So what I need to do here is I will add new Apex column. After that, in this column, I'll add output link. And as a parameter, even like here. Just give me a second. So it will be param, apex param equals ID, value equals something like holiday.id. I need to modify my controller, of course, but for now I'm okay with just modifying the page. Oops. So now I switch back to the controller and do some magic there. It's not so much. So it will, yeah, I believe we have everything right in place. So again, after making changes, I press F5 and my code will get to the spatial organization. You can see that build succeeded. So I can get back to Salesforce and try to refresh this holidays Visualforce page. It should have a new column. Great. So there is no such page, and I will just create a new page. How I've coded? Visualforce Previewer. Okay. So right-click on the Pages folder, select New Item, Page, and that will be Holidays. So creating the new page, and I will open it and do some development here. So the cool thing about the Welkin Suite is that it's all-in-one IDE. It supports everything that you might need in your daily development. It might be Lightning, Visualforce, Apex, all of the like other types of metadata. So I won't talk too much. Maybe Rustam wants to add something here while I'll type in some Visualforce stuff.
Great question, but maybe I'm not ready to talk about the anything. In this, I'm maybe not the best Lightning developer over the world.
You know me too.
But just I would like to pay your attention. Right now, you can see the great code completion functionality implemented in the Welkin Suite. That is not just in Apex, but in the Lightning, in the Aura modules, in the HTML, in the CSS, and the JavaScript. So all the things are supported here and with the appropriate hints. Actually, you know that code completion stuff is one of the most important things for the developers who are spending a lot of time just for typing code, especially for the front-end stuff like Lightning development. So we are paying attention in this aspect of the development, of course. By the way, also please pay attention how easy and quickly Vladimir is navigating through the project, how he can find new files, how to add new elements into the application. So all these things you will be able to use if you start using the Welkin Suite. Not just when you start using this application, because it should be your choice, because it will save your time and will increase your productivity. So the next file we started, by the way, you could see in the editor when you edit each file, the editor highlights pieces of the file that is changed, not just in the main editor, in the main window, but in the right part of the editor window, you could see the smart scroll bar that highlighting changes, highlight lines of code, highlights errors if they are there. And at the left part of the editor window, you could see the class navigator.
By the way, about the code completion, so for Apex we have built our, or like for everything, we have built our own vectors, parsers, and all of the stuff. So the code completion is immediate. We know everything about the regular Salesforce stuff. We know everything about your custom stuff. And as you might see right now on my screen, we also provide some documentation taken from Salesforce, as well as taken from your code. So it's much easier to write the code, especially when you're not very familiar with it like I am right now. It won't make it writing you very fast during the webinar, but still it will help you to write it during your like regular daily tasks. So I will keep writing, and again, last time, please back up maybe.
Yeah, so I just would like to stress that Vladimir should practice to develop a bit more. So your skill to type the source code is a bit lost last months when you was present the Welkin Suite on the Dreamforce and participate as events like this webinar. But anyway, we are proceeding. You could see right now the code completion for integrated SOQL. So this also is in the application. As you can see, you can type the SOQL using this code completion functionality, or use our integrated SOQL builder and executor. Sometimes it's useful for administration tasks. When you are in this SOQL builder and executor, you can create SOQL queries within the graphical user interface, select needed fields from the object or from the related objects, execute the query, see the results, see export results to CSV file if needed, or in the future releases we are going to grant the possibility to edit data directly from the IDE. Sometimes it's useful to prepare the test data for the development lifecycle. For administrators, it can be useful to change some kind of metadata also. And by the way, you could see in the code completion there is information from the documentation, from the available documentation is highlighted if it is. And if you use the Apex doc features, we also showing the information about methods in highlights. Vladimir?
I hope I don't have any mistakes.
Hope so.
No, I have them. Oops. Of course, couple mistakes. It's okay. Thankfully, we highlight them, and you see all of them in the error list. So once I'm done, I should be able to see. Yeah, one more mistake here, but almost done. Almost done. Still. Yep. So once this will be built onto my page organization, I should be able to see this Visualforce page with a countdown. So I can just refresh it, or again, I'll just go to the holidays page and select about the Christmas. So how many we have about the Christmas? Holiday previewer does not exist. Okay, how? Yeah, because I've called it another way. So I will modify it. So you see that it's really like pretty cool to develop with Salesforce DX. It's just like I spent less than a couple minutes to spin up my environment, and now I can very rapidly work with it as with any regular organization. It doesn't require anything additional from my side, and you can already see that I have a countdown till the Christmas. So it's like 255 hours. It's not so much. I'd say it's 10 days. We are pretty almost ready for it. So yep. One more thing I need to do, I need to make a unit test. Just give me a second, and I won't bother you for the next time. I'll just copy paste it from somewhere in my notebook. And you also see the cool thing about the Salesforce DX. Why I love it? It's because In Salesforce DX, you can add any files to your project, just drop them into your folder, like I will do right now. Holiday previewer controller test. That's it. It's already here in my IDE. Still, I need to copy the metadata. So right now I have my unit test here. So I will try to do some stuff. I will try to find the ID of my Christmas because I have wrote it in such way that I need the ID of my record. So put it here, press F5. Again, the unit test will get to Salesforce if my copy paste is not bad. It's bad, of course. So holiday preview controller test.
Pay attention how quickly Vladimir can change or refactor the code. So when the editor is highlighted, needed selected words, selected operands. So and how quickly and easy you will be able to manage mistake troubleshooting during the development. Actually, that's quite interesting experience for us to develop some piece of code under pressure during the webinar when you need to not just sync over the source code, but for the presenting stuff. Okay, Vladimir, please proceed.
Okay, so I wrote a unit test. It's pretty badly written, but I don't care about it right now. And I will just ensure that it works before committing my stuff to the GitHub. So I open test results panel, I press run tests. We already detect that you have a unit test here. So I press run tests. It's passed, great. I am almost happy, but I just need to test my code coverage. So I switch back to the code coverage panel and I see that my new controller is covered with unit tests, while I don't care about the holidays controller. So I'm kind of done. I am right now pushing all of the stuff because it took me 5 more minutes at least to all of the stuff. So I will commit all of my changes to the Git repository and push it immediately there. So Lorenzo will be able to review my code and say me how badly I am writing the code. So push have succeeded. My code is now in the GitHub repository, and I believe that already some magic on Lorenzo's side is beginning. So I will switch the presenter to Lorenzo and he'll show you all this magic.
Okay. Yes. Okay, so Clayton has already picked up the changes in the repo. So as Vladimir has pushed some code, there is a webhook that will tell Clayton, hey, there is something new, please come back and have a look. And let's see, now the review might take a few minutes because the first time the code needs to be reviewed, needs to be cloned, and all the rules need to be applied. So please bear with me, it might take a few seconds. But what is happening in the meantime is that all the code review criteria that we have specified are have been transformed by Clayton into rules that are being applied as the code is being analyzed. So let's give it a couple of seconds. Yeah, so the analysis is still in progress.
It's because my code is so bad, or it's because it's so cool?
No, it's fine, it's fine. The first analysis always takes a minute just to do the clone.
And the cool thing here is that I can also at the same time open the Clayton.io and see the progress of the code review. So once it finishes and once Lorenzo will explain you what are the results, I can try to silently fix these issues on my own while Lorenzo will be busy.
Sorry, Vlad, can I ask you to switch back control? I will have a look at if there is any latency on our worker.
Sure. And I'll just make myself a presenter.
Thank you.
And you should be able to see my screen right now. And what else I want to show you and highlight one more cool thing that, so as I mentioned in the beginning, I love the idea to include the sample data into your repository. As you have seen, it took me about just like 30 seconds to import 3 records. And right now I will just show you the way how you can generate the sample data in, again, almost like the same 20 seconds. So I will remove my JSON file from the data folder, and I will also remove my SOQL file just to show you everything from scratch. So let's assume you have just created something very complex and crazy. You've created lots of sample data, dictionaries, lots of relations, like taking into account all the business cases, modified all the values, and now you want to save this data for years for the future for your team. The easiest way to do this is to create a folder data, like I've done, add new item, it will be the query. As I'm exporting holidays, I will call it holidays export. And once done, the IDE will open the SOQL editor. And what's cool about this editor? So in the upper left side, you see the editor. You can write your queries right here. If you don't want writing the queries, on the right side, you can see the list of all your queryable as objects on the default Scratch org. So again, you don't need to do anything to specify that the query builder should work with your Scratch org. I will just look for holiday. And once I expand this object, I can see all of its fields. So in order to grab the data that I've had in the beginning of the webinar, I just select name, ID, holiday date, and is it public holiday. I don't need anything more, so I don't need to remember all these API names. I don't need to know how to write SOQL. I can even grab child relations, but there is none of them. So what I will do here, I will just execute the SOQL query. I've ensured that yes, it returned me my 3 records, so I save it for the future. I close it because I don't need it anymore. Right-click on the SOQL file, and in the same way as I've done for, I export it just with 1 click. Again, 10 to 20 seconds, and you have your JSON file ready to play and ready to import data to any of your Scratch environments. So this is really awesome, and it saves lots of time for developers, for QAs to set up the environment and start playing with it properly. And Ryan, so feel free to interrupt me once you would like to continue. And at the same time, I'll try to go through a couple of the questions that's related to what I've shown, and I'll try to answer them because I believe that it will be interesting for everybody. We have a nice question from Thomas, like, will you provide what we see is what you get the editor for Visualforce development? So, it's our kind of dream for the last years, I believe, to make such kind of visual editor for Lightning and for Visualforce. I'm not sure that we'll be able to do this, but at least we'll include a previewer for your Visualforce pages into the Salesforce DX project, and the same, of course, for the Lightning development. So you'll be able to see the pages directly here in the browser without even switching to the IDE. You'll see them in the IDE without even switching to the browser. So no more mess with Alt-Tab, you'll just work in the same environment. Nice cool question from Hanu. So how can we deploy from sandbox to production using Salesforce DX? So from sandbox to production, you won't be able to kind of deploy using the Salesforce DX. Salesforce DX is more for development itself. So like in my example, I have jumped into the task, I have cloned the repository, I've created a Scratch org, I will develop whatever I need, I will test it out on the second Scratch org, on the third Scratch org, I will ensure that my code is working okay. Then Lorenzo or Clayton.io will ensure that my code is not smelly. And after that, I will push that code to the repository and I will kill my Scratch organization. At the same time as you have your SFDX project in the Git repository, you will be able to convert it to the regular metadata API format, as you've got used to this Ant migration tool. So you have your proper package.xml file, you have your metadatas, and right after that, you will be able to deploy all of these changes to your sandbox, to your production, using manually using the Ant migration tool, or maybe using the any CI tools like Bamboo, like Jenkins, like anything else. So in general, DX is not for deployments. DX is for great comfort of development. DX is for resolving lots of issues, working with Git, and it really helps saving time for the teamwork. Yeah, I have another question. Yeah, Lawrence, you're here.
Sorry, yeah, really sorry about the issue. I had a problem with we had a problem with latency on our workers, but thankfully that that result has now come true. So you can see that the review that the code that was pushed by Vladimir on master has triggered the review. It took longer than it should have, but we have the results here. We have a sorry, let me hide this. You can see that Clayton has picked up a few problems, so violations to our coding standards that we defined. So the first thing was on this this page, holidays previewer, on line 1. Okay, Clayton has detected that there aren't any page messages displayed. So that means that as a user, if should the page trigger any exception, the user will not be informed in a nice, friendly way. So this is something for Vladimir to consider. And then the same for the holidays Visualforce page. And then we also have something a bit more serious, which is a potential door vulnerability. So what Clayton is picking up is that on this line of code, line number 7, we are using item ID as a variable that comes from a query string parameter. So that means that one could potentially inject any ID, like create a code an ID on purpose to extract any holiday item that you would like to access. And because this class hasn't got any with sharing clause, Clayton has detected that there is a potential vulnerability threat. And somewhere else here, there is an hard-coded ID, and I think that was the test class. So yes, we can see here there is a class with a ID that has. So in the meantime, even if it took a bit longer, Clayton has sent an email and notified Vladimir that his code has introduced some new problems, and he should have a look at them. So I will now switch back to Vlad, so he's able to maybe fix any of them, and let's see how it goes.
You know, I have got the email immediately, and I've just started fixing it, so I'm almost done. I will just switch back screen to myself, and you should be able my screen now. So first of all, I will get rid of that issues with the page messages. So yeah, I don't have any error handling. I won't do it in a proper way right now, so I will just drop my code in try-catch, and I will add like Apex page message to the page. So I will do it for my page. And as a good developer, at the same time, as previously there was no code reviewing, there was no quality standards, now I have them, so I will have to modify the existing code as well. So I will add Apex page messages, block to both pages, and I will deploy my changes. I hope I haven't done any issues as well. So in this way, I will resolve the issues with page messages. Nope. This way it's better. Okay, and at the same time, there was an issue that I don't enforce sharing rules with my controller. So I will just enforce them because it's right to have the sharing rule. It's right to enforce them, and even if you don't need, just type in without. But don't omit this part because it's wrong. Regarding the unit test fix, yeah, let me just create an. Now I won't create it, it will take so much time. So what I will do here, I believe I will do very bad stuff. You don't need to do this. You just don't do this at all. I will just comment my code. So this is how I'm fighting right now the bad quality code. I'm just commenting it. So I press F5, everything should be okay, and I should be able to commit back my changes. So I am writing the commit message. It's really a shame to fight with issues this way that I've done. And again, I will push the changes to Salesforce, to the GitHub. Clayton.io will be able to show us, I hope, everything green. And like again, I'll switch to Lorenzo, so he will finally approve my changes, and I will be able to proceed.
Yeah, if your code is have enough quality.
I hope so.
Lorenzo, could you share us your?
Yes, okay, so I am refreshing now. Okay, this time was definitely faster. So again, the new code has triggered, pushed by Vladimir has triggered a new review, and this time there is only one problem left, which was simply the page is not including the Apex page messages tag. So nothing major, the code is definitely got better.
I
think
forgot to include one line, so I will do this right now while you talk. Sorry for interrupting you.
Yeah, don't worry, don't worry. So what I wanted to show you is that Clayton now is building up a little bit of history. So you can imagine how, when working with a team, can surface information that it's not so easy to figure out unless you've been working with a team for a long time. So Clayton, as your team, will run the reviews. As Clayton will run a review for your team, it will learn what are the most common issues, so what are the most common mistakes that your team makes, so that, for example, when you have at the end of the sprint, your team retrospective, you can sit together and see, okay, is there anything that we are not doing well enough, or is there anything that we need to address via training, for example? Imagine that there is a problem that keeps happening, right? There are a few interesting statistics that Clayton will surface and will grow over time. Clayton will learn and tell you what is your resolution rate. So of all the defects that you're introducing, how many you resolve. So it's easy for a team lead, for the entire team to be aware of how the project is evolving, not only from a functional point of view, but also, is the code getting better, or is it staying pretty much the same? And for example, here we can see from this chart that how much of the issues that we introduced have been resolved. So I can see here, of course, these will more commits and more code pushed will grow, but I can see already that we pretty much resolved pretty much everything. Of all the 5 issues that over the history of the project we created, we solved 4. So as a team lead, I'm satisfied. And
it's already 5, just refresh your page.
Right, yay, okay. Yeah, it arrived, yes. Well done, Vlad. I'm a happy man now. Okay, so this is, in a nutshell, everything we wanted to show you as a very, very quick overview of Clayton with the Welkin Suite. Of course, we wanted to keep things short, and we had a few hiccups on my side. So again, apologies about that. But I think I can switch back to Vlad and Rastam so that we can start addressing some of the questions you might have.
Great. Thank you very much for going through the statistical answer. I'll get back to sharing my screen. And also, I'm just looking at the Clayton.io, and I like this information about the defect density and resolution rate and even average time to resolve. So it's pretty nice to see this data and to analyze your team's performance. I really enjoying this information, and I hope that at some days we'll see these numbers pretty low, at least for density and for average time to resolve for every Salesforce developers with pretty nice tools.
And I even started to think about to implement this in our team.
Yeah, 5 minutes. 5 minutes is a pretty good start. You should be proud of that.
We're pretty proud. Okay, guys. So I think it's like that's it. As Lorenzo said, like yeah, we've tried to do this as fast as possible. I've made also kind of. I need to type in faster. We've got, as usual, some kind of issues during the webinar. It's okay. It's normal. Everyone does it. At least we do it. So for now on, we'll live here for the next 15 minutes, I believe. We'll try to answer the questions. I've already passed a couple of them to Lorenzo. So if you want, just jump in and answer the questions. And if you won't get to answer your question in the next 10 or 15 minutes, please don't be angry on us. We'll try to do this later via the emails or in some other way, because like yeah, we won't be able to sit here and like if your question is pretty complex or needs more explanations and details, we'll try to get it offline and share the best answer for you as we can.
Right, so I can tackle immediately a couple of them. And the first question from Ankush, Slovenia. If we need a coded ID due to something related to the project, can I bypass some kind of checks without modifying the configuration? Yes, the answer is yes. So when you actually, if you switch back, can I ask you, Vlad, to switch back to my screen?
Done.
Right. So when I'm looking at any issue, oh, okay, I won't be able to show you this because all the problems have been resolved. But when you're looking at any finding, let me see if there's anything that I can show you from any other project. So when there is any finding by Clayton, you always have the option to ignore that finding. So that means that you're overriding, you're making the conscious decision that that is fine, that shouldn't be considered a problem this time. And Clayton will remove that from his report. So hopefully I answered the question. The other is, does Clayton has a setting to review only the change code, not the complete file structure? I've used Clayton and used to review old code as well, and changing old code was not in our control. So this is a very, very good question. Thank you. Basically, the question is, I am getting a large report of all the things that are not good with my code. What if I care about, I cannot change the history of the project. I can only do better my part. So can I see only the increment? The answer is we are working on it. So there is a release, the next release of Clayton will fix exactly these things. So today, this is possible only when you do pull requests. So Clayton will operate in this incremental mode when you do a pull request between a branch and another. So it will only give you a report on the delta. But with the new release of the product that we are aiming to have out early next year, there will be the option there will be the possibility to filter only new issues or everything. So that is not entirely possible yet. It's somewhat possible today, but it will be definitely possible in the next release. And then the other question by Kasia, can I define my rules for code review? So very good question. So today Clayton allows for configuration. So every time you pick any rule, you can determine how you want the rule to behave. So the example with sharing, we have a sharing behavior that gives you the flexibility to say, okay, this is how I want the rule to behave in these circumstances. So we have some flexibility. However, if you want to create new rules, this is something that today is not possible, but is something we are working on. So we want in the near future so the next release will definitely allow people to create their own naming conventions by using regular expressions. So you will be able to say, I want all the classes to be named according to these regular expressions. So that will come. New rules entirely. It's something that is not coming in the very next release, but we are already in advanced stage of design. So it's definitely something we are working on. We have definitely some ideas and prototypes working. They're not yet ready to be in production yet, but we hope to achieve that by at some point next year. So hopefully that addresses the question. Thank you again, Kasia, for this question.
And Terence, I'm sharing another question.
Okay, thank you. So Thomas asks, how does it differ from PMD? So another very good question. So in short, one of the key reasons, the key rationale for creating a new tool was that the tools that were available out there didn't quite solve the problem that I could see in the Salesforce development. PMD is a great effort from the open source community. It's a fantastic work. It's definitely great. However, there is a fundamental problem to PMD. That is, PMD cannot resolve symbols across multiple files. So there are problems that will not emerge from individual files, but they depend on how your components interact with each other. Before, we saw a problem that was a Visualforce page. It wasn't caused by a problematic Visualforce page or a problematic class. The vulnerability that was picked up was understood by Clayton because of how the Visualforce page and the Apex class were interacting with each other, how they were combining together. So this capability is not something that can be designed with, can be implemented with the engine that PMD offer. So for this reason, this is one of the short answer to why we decided to go back to the drawing board and create an entirely new engine that was designed for Salesforce development and for all these things that will not be possible with existing tools. And so another question is, Clayton, a free or a fee? So it's software as a service, so there is a subscription fee that is based on the number of contributors to a project. So we want our model to suit well not only small organizations, but also service integrators that might do a lot of project development, but they work on a single project only for a little bit of time because they do consultancies, for example. So the way Clayton model works is that we price based on a number of seats or a number of contributors in your organization. So how many people will contribute code via GitHub? That is what determines the price of the fee. So that should answer the question. Do you include all the rules of the Salesforce code review? So I'm not sure I understand the question entirely. I think you're referring to the security review. So basically, Salesforce, if you want to go on the App Exchange and publish your app on the App Exchange, there is a process called the security review. That is a process that Salesforce operates. So they use their own tools, so these tools are not available. The work we are doing with Clayton is to create a tool that is powerful enough to pick up all those things and check them continuously in the development process. So we are in contact with Salesforce, and we want to work together even more with the security team to make sure that we understand exactly what the most common problems are, and we can respond and create even more rules. I think that the bottom line is that we try to keep as much alignment as we can, and we definitely we are keeping our tool aligned to Salesforce. So everything that will come up with the platform, if if that requires new rule, we will be adding those rules with every new release. Is there an integration with the Microsoft VSTS repos? So very good question. Unfortunately, the answer is no at this moment. We don't have that, but you can get in touch later and we can take this offline. There might be options to look at it, but that is not something we can do in the very short term. Are you able to block a commit if the code review fails? Yes. Yes, that's how it works. So I'm not sure that is something we have shown, but we haven't done any pull request. But Clayton will, if we were to create a pull request, Clayton will then leave a validation on it. So a pass-fail directly in Git or in GitHub, for example, and it's possible to say that you want, for example, to lock a branch and protect it. So, and you might want to say, I want the status check from Clayton to be successful before any change in the master branch can be accepted. So this is definitely possible. It requires setting up GitHub in a certain way, but that's definitely a yes. Will you support VSTS? That is something that I just answered, I think, earlier. We don't have that today. We can definitely look into that, but it's not something that we are ready to offer in the very short term. But we are definitely something. It's definitely something we are looking into.
Okay, I believe we are almost done, and we are kind of done with questions. Guys, I would just ask you to spend 1 more minute. I will launch 2 very quick polls. Just please select one of 2 buttons there, and we'll be pretty happy and thankful for you for your responses. So it just won't take you more than 1 minute to answer these polls. And right after that, if there won't be no more questions after this couple minutes, I believe that we'll wrap up our webinar. We'll send to all of you the link to the webinar recording in a couple of days. And if you have any more questions, just get in touch with me, with the Welkin Suite team itself, with Lorenzo, with Clayton.io team, and we'll be happy to answer your questions, to help you, and do whatever we can to make your life easier. And I'll just launch the second poll, and it will also won't take more than a minute. So thank you very much, guys. Thank you for your time. And if you have any more questions in the future, if you would like to just visit our websites and get in touch with us. So right now on your screen, you see the websites for the welkinsuite.com, for the Clayton.io, and just try yourselves those tools and get your Salesforce development life easier. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you very much, Lorenzo and Rustam, for making this webinar happen. And I believe
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a great day, guys, or evening, or morning, whatever you have in your time zone. So see you later.